Hello everyone, my name is Miss Bernstein and I am going to go through my lesson on sequencing events, hence using SMARTBoard. So, a lesson objective is students will be able to use sequence words to place events into the correct order. And so that's under lesson objectives. And here under teacher notes we have a little bit of information about the lesson. It's a language arts lesson, the topic is sequencing words, and it's meant for grade 4. And here under lesson notes we have the common core standards that align with this lesson. Use a variety of transitional words and phrases to manage the sequence of events, and write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. Alright, so the first part of the lesson we would do is we would present this slide, what is sequencing? And at this point, it would be important to ask students, what is sequencing? Talk to a neighbor, talk to a partner for a minute or two, and have them talk, figure out what is sequencing, let them brainstorm a little bit, and then have students, after those 1 or 2 minutes, share their thoughts with the class. So that way everyone can get an idea, see what they know. And you can let them know what sequencing is by pulling out the pull tab here. Here, sequencing is putting things like events into a particular order. And so, put the pull tab back, and we can click on this link below to play a game on sequencing. This one is picture sequencing, just to see what the kids know about sequencing, to figure out how they can do it.
Click and drop the numbers to sequence the actions.
Okay, so you would click on the numbers and just drag them to the correct image. So I think the first one they would start with is this one here.
1.
And that's correct. Now, if they got it wrong, like for example, if I thought this one came next, I could put it here. But nope, that one's wrong. It jumped right back. So let's see how we think. This one comes
2.
next. And this one.
3. 4.
There we go.
Well done. You have done it.
And
click and drop the numbers to sequence the actions.
And then when you're done the first sequence, it pulls up a new one. And you can continue playing, play a couple of different rounds. It comes up with a different sequence each time. I believe there's about 15 different scenarios it circulates through. So you really can go through it for a while with students just to make sure they have the hang of sequencing. Okay, and the next thing we do is go to this next slide. And we have a video for students to watch, just to get an idea about what sequencing is and what kinds of words we would use.
It's time for Now Trending, where we take a quick look at topics making waves on the internet. Hi everyone, I'm Eddie Dixon, and today on the internet it seems quite a few people are disappointed with a certain rabbit. There's no need for that kind of smack talk, Bunny, wrote Jesse M, while Big Dog 19 posted this.
Oh no, it's not time for a nap, Rabbit.
Finally, LEP89 wrote,
Well, the hare had speed, but the tortoise had endurance.
So what's all the fuss about? Turns out, they're talking about today's race between the tortoise and the hare. I've got all the major events right here. First, the hare mocks the tortoise. There's no need for that kind of smack talk, Bunny. Then, the race begins. Next, the hare decides to take a nap.
Oh no, it's not time for a nap, Rabbit.
Finally, the tortoise wins the race.
Well, the hare had speed, but the tortoise had endurance.
An exciting day for tortoises everywhere, to be sure. And thanks to keywords like first, then, next, and finally, we know what happened in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. I'm Eddie Dixon, and that's the topic that's trending today on the internet.
And that's that little short video to show kids, just to give them an idea about how, first of all, what sequencing is, and then some critical sequencing words and why they're important to a story. So that way they know what comes first and how events are put into a specific order. So then we move on to our next slide, which is our first practice activity. where we read the story about what happened and then underline the words that we think are sequence words. So, one day there was a boy named Steve who had a very good day. First, Steve woke up in the morning to his favorite breakfast of pancakes. Second, Steve had a surprise visit from his best friend. Next, Steve and his best friend played baseball, his favorite game, with all of their friends. Then, his mother let all Steve's friends come over to watch a movie. Last, Steve's mom let all the boys stay for a sleepover. Steve thought that day may have been the best day ever. And so what you would do for this activity is, if you were using SMARTBoard, you would take out the pen tool, or if you wanted to, you could use the highlighter tool, and you would highlight or underline what students thought were the sequence words. So, for example, first would be a sequence word, so students could take the highlighter tool and highlight that. Or, if students were using the pen, they could have the pen and pick a nice color, bright color they can see, and highlight another word. So, for example, the word next. And students could take turns coming up to the board, highlighting or underlining those words within the story, and explaining why they help explain the order. So, for example, we know this is the first thing Steve did because it has this word right here. And then we move on to our big practice activity with students, and it explains, let's practice. Sequence the instructions below so they are in the correct order. And so we know we're doing a sequence on how to paint a picture. And we have all these instructions, but all out of order. So what students can do is they can click and drag into the correct order. So this one says first, so it's going to probably go near the top. And this one says last, so it's probably going to go near the bottom. And students can do that until they have sequenced the instructions into something that makes sense to them. You can review it with students to see whether or not they think it's right or wrong. Do it as a class. I'm just going to put this in order so everyone can see. And there we are. There's all the instructions in order. And you as the teacher can review that. And certain things don't necessarily have to be in the exact order, like these two, the then could go before the next kind of thing. But a lot of these, like the first, second, last, has to have a specific order, and hence students should be able to identify that placement. Okay, and for our one of our last activities is this little review, and it's fill in the blank. So blank is when putting things like events hence into a particular order. So that would be sequencing, so we would drag sequencing over to fill in the blank. And then a sequence word that works well for the first part of the sequence is first. And blank, so last. Last is a sequence word good for the last part of a sequence. Excellent. And students could drag those into place. And the very last thing students would do is there is a Kahoot quiz that I have made. So they would log on to Kahoot, and there is this Kahoot that students can get ready to play. And so this is the Kahoot, this is the teacher view, just so that we don't have to go through the entire Kahoot in the student view. So they would be asked what is sequencing, what set of sequence words would be best to use when telling a 3-part story, what sequence word would be a good way to start a sequence of events, and which sequence word would be a good way to end a sequence. And you would end with a Kahoot, and that is the whole lesson. And then if you choose to expand on that, that is totally up to you. And that is everything. Have a wonderful day, everyone.